What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here, and welcome to the GSD Mode podcast. So real quick, before we jump into today's epic, amazing podcast interview, make sure to check us out at gsdmode.com, where you can see previous interviews, as well as a bunch of other free resources that will help you massively grow your real estate business. Also, if you enjoy and find value and see value in the content here at GSD Mode, make sure that you share the show with somebody that you feel can benefit from the content that we are releasing. This show is possible because of all your support, and your support truly means a lot. Now let's jump into today's interview and go have some fun. Peace. What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode podcast, where every single week I interview top entrepreneurs, top real estate professionals, and just straight up top badasses that are out there dominating their space. These are people choosing to not live a life of mediocrity, but instead to go out there and create big, amazing, epic lives for themselves and their families, as well as have a big impact on others. And today, you guys got an epic guest on the show, a young, badass entrepreneur that's doing some big things that I know is going to add a lot of value to all of us here on today's podcast. So our guest today, you guys, is a 26-year-old entrepreneur. Got to start entrepreneurship at an early age. Today, he co-owns multiple six-figure companies, including a digital marketing agency, which is about to hit 7 figures in their second year. They manage in the digital marketing agency over 600 companies, social media marketing and branding. He's also the CEO and founder of Vision Wall Inc., which helps create online influence for entrepreneurs, right? So dude that's has a lot of great knowledge and also has been through a lot of his own business building, learning lessons and successes with all of that. So really stoked and honored to have Alex Lombard on the show. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks so much for having me, man. I appreciate it. Excited to be here.
Yeah, no, me too, dude. And I'm stoked to have you on. Like I said, I know we're going to learn a lot from you, just in really from multiple different ways, right? What you've done to build your businesses and create the quick traction that you have, right? Plus, with what your niche is and your specialty is where we all need to be. Whether a real estate agent or any entrepreneur, it's like we've got to all figure out how to go out there and leverage these amazing tools that we've been blessed with that are free, right? Yeah. With social media to go out there and leverage our brand. But before we get into do what you're doing today and the things that your clients are doing to have so much success of using social media to grow their brands, I'm always intrigued in our guest journeys that have led them here in the first place. I mean, you're only 26 years old, dude. You've got all these companies. Like, how did this start in the first place? How'd you get started in business?
Yeah. Awesome. So, quick backstory. So for me, man, growing up when I was like in high school and early college, I was the kid that was just truly looking for a way out. Like I just never saw myself going down the path that society kind of paints for you, where you go, you get good grades, you apply for college, you get in a bunch of debt, and then you go to, apply for a job. And then you hopefully you land one of them, and then you work, luckily you get to work 9 to 5 and, every day, 40, 50, 60 hours a week. And you kind of just live for the weekend, and you do that for 40, 50 years of your life, and now there's all these crazy statistics of, my generation not even being able to retire and like all this crazy stuff, man. And so point being, I just never wanted to do that, so when I was growing up, I was always the kid that was just searching for anything I could do that got me excited, that was fun, that was adventurous, that was, around friends, were getting in trouble, whatever I could do, to just have fun. And then obviously as I got older to try to do that to make money as well. And so I was always looking for something different. It's funny, I think back when I was probably like 17, 18 years old, if you would have asked me, hey, why don't you get into business or become an entrepreneur? I literally would have told you, because I don't have anything that I can invent, like I didn't know that like entrepreneurship meant a billion different things, especially today. I always kind of looked at it as like you had to own a gas station or like invent something. And so, I was just kind of lost, but like on this path of just looking for a way out. And so again, long story short, I got into college about 21 years old. I got introduced to the network marketing space, which some people like, some people don't. Regardless, I got introduced to it. I had no idea what it was. All I saw was a bunch of young kids that were 18, 19, making 6 figures in my area. So I was like, sign me up. Let's do this. This is going to be life-changing. And it was life-changing. Although I never made a bunch of money with that industry, it did drastically change my life because it built the foundation for, my career today. I was in that industry for like 3 years. It's also what introduced me to social media, got me on Instagram, and it really just taught me a lot about, business and entrepreneurship, and, got me into personal development, started reading books. I never read a book in my life until that point, getting on podcasts, right? It really launched my career. And it also taught me a lot of valuable lessons about just hard work and consistency and networking, and how to, actually go out there and build real relationships, and how to communicate with people in a world where, unfortunately, a lot of people don't know how to do that. And so anyways, did that for a couple of years. Again, never found much monetary success. And then from there, man, really just dove all in with social media specifically, because that was kind of my thing. I went hard with it back when I first started, because I just saw it as a big opportunity at the time to, recruit people and sell products. And then, from there, I just saw it as an opportunity to do so much more. And so I kind of went full time into that, so that's kind of, a little quick backstory. But what I can say, and I love telling a lot of you podcasters, and just so their viewers can listen to this as well. But, my story, I feel like, relates to a lot of people in the sense that, from a surface level, it looks like, oh, I just, got started in entrepreneurship and blew up. But like, man, for 5 years, for 4.5 years, I was struggling, like broke as you could possibly imagine, barely could pay bills, just like refused to get a job, but was like doing little side hustles just to pay, to feed myself. And so I just want people to know that, like, we're going to move into some more, like you said, kind of tactical stuff and give some cool strategies. But like, I really was that whole bamboo tree where I was working my butt off for 4 or 5 years before anything really started to prosper. So, yeah, man, hopefully that kind of gives you a little bit of background.
No, that's awesome, dude. So, what was it about social media? Like, at what point, what was it with social media that clicked where you were like, dude, this is the path I want to go for business. I'm going to get out of the network marketing, and I'm going to go out there and help others create success with this? Or did it not start that way? You just knew it had to be around social media?
Yeah. So kind of the latter. So I knew I wanted to be around it. It started right out the gate. It started as me seeing it as a way to expose more people to what I thought was the greatest opportunity in the world, obviously, as most people do in that space, and really any industry. But I saw it as a way to expose people. At the time, it's like we were trained to do like one-on-one calls and like, actual physical home events where you get a bunch of people in a room and kind of pitch your opportunity. And I saw social media as a way to like do that, but on a mass scale. It was like, man, I can do this to literally thousands of people. And if I build a brand, if I build a following, I could do it to, endless amounts of people, and I could get so many people in my business. So that's kind of how it started. Then as I progressed down the journey, I started to realize that building a brand and having a following was the ultimate leverage in today's world for literally anything. And then what I realized after that was it was just the demand, man, of it. It was, I started getting people that I respected, that I looked up to at the time, asking me advice and willing to pay me to give them tips and tricks and help them with it. And that's, true to this day. I mean, that's how we've kind of built a lot of our companies and a lot of the things that I do. It's literally just, I've gotten to the point now where it's, I work with higher level individuals like yourself, 6, 7, 8-figure earners in various different industries that understand that the future lies online, and they want to build a brand, they want to build a following, and they want to expose themselves, and build themselves into an influential person in whatever space they're involved with. And I've really established myself as like the go-to person to do that. Which has been really cool. And so at the end of the day, I really saw it as just an opportunity for myself to go out there and expose people to different things and make money. But then I also started to realize after being involved with it for, a little bit of time, that there were a lot of other people that also saw it as a big opportunity, but they just didn't either want to learn how to do it, or they were just like, hey, I'd rather just pay someone to do it. And I was kind of that guy. So that's kind of how it progressed.
Yeah, love it, dude. So then you talk about the importance of building a brand really being the ultimate, the cream of the crop of what our focus needs to be today, and the ultimate driver for our businesses. And this really becomes twofold, right? Because it's us learning from how you built your brand and how we can do it to our own. But when you're jumping into this new niche, you're just switching from network marketing now to with the social media and helping other people build the brand, but you don't have the brand built yet. You're just trying to get clients going. What did you do to just get started with building that brand and landing those first few clients, and then using that to just compound into building the brand that you have now?
Yeah. So at the time when when we transitioned into, launching the digital marketing company and focusing on Instagram, I did have a pretty solid base, built up. I had, 3.5 years, 4 years, or 3.5, something like that, years of experience on Instagram, already kind of built a little bit of a name, at least within that space. And so actually what we did was, our number one client was other network marketers. So we kind of stayed in the same industry, and we just repositioned it like, hey, no, I'm not actually building the business, but like, I know how to help you build the business online. I can help you gain influence and help you gain, a position as like a leader in your space on Instagram. And so we kind of redirected our focus towards the industry, but came at it with a different approach. And so that's kind of where it started. That's really where, we leveraged the network. So I have a couple partners as well. And between all of us, at that point in time when we did transition, we had a pretty large network within that specific industry. And so that's kind of how we started, was we went back to that industry with a, again, it's not like a, hey, here's a new opportunity. It's, hey, I know you want to grow on Instagram, because everybody does, and we can help you do that. And so we kind of became like the go-to brand within that industry for people that were looking to grow their social media. And so that's kind of where it started. And then, man, just as I grew and as I created new partnerships, and, I was able to acquire a lot of different, brands, and started working with a lot of different companies, I was able to, in doing shows like podcasts like this, it just kind of expanded organically to where we started hitting other industries like real estate, for example, and started helping people in that space. And then one of the tactics too, and this is kind of a little nugget as well, is if you have the ability to land like a big fish, you hear that phrase a lot, but if you can get someone that has a big network or has a big name, you can then you can use them as like the face of, what you're doing, and then kind of go from there. So for example, right out the gate, we kind of lucked out, and we were able to land a couple pretty big network marketers that were 7-figure earners. They're like the face of, multi-billion-dollar companies in that space. And because of that, we then started getting all of their top leaders and their downlines and their teams, you know what I mean? So it kind of just trickled downward, as opposed to going outward. We were able to kind of get one person and go down and build down, if that makes sense. So so hopefully that kind of answers your question.
Yep. No, love it, dude. So then when it comes to building our own brands, right? Because you see a lot of people doing this now, a lot of these big influencers where, it's like they've got their company or companies, but they're building their own personal brand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right. Like one that everybody knows, Gary Vee, right? Yeah. Most people that follow Gary Vee probably couldn't even tell you the name of his agency. Yeah. Right. But he's, so, it used to be back in the day, whatever your company was, that you would just push that. You wouldn't even know who the owner or the CEO is. Yeah. Right. What is the importance to that? Because it sounds to me like what you guys did, like you had each of your own followings with you and your partner, you personally, before you even started the company, and then you were able to tap into that and leverage that.
Exactly.
So for those of us that have, let's just say it is a real estate company, like I've got my real estate company, it's called Revista Real Estate Group, mm-hmm. but then I've got me as Joshua Smith, mm-hmm. right? What should the focus be, right? When it comes to building up that brand, is it more important for me to really, at least initially, really just focus on building up the following and the connection with me personally?
Yeah, really good question, man. So I definitely would say, you used Gary. That's literally a perfect example. If you notice, the way he does it is his brand is the focal point. He still has brands and has a team, and, is building a following and building exposure around all of his different companies. But his face, the Gary Vaynerchuk brand, the name, that's where his personal attention is. And I think that is just such an amazing strategy, because for a few reasons. Number one, it really kind of unlocks, new levels of just overall exposure. So what I mean by that is, like, let's say you're zeroed in on just your real estate company. Well, things happen, right? Shit happens. Life happens. What happens if that goes under, that goes down? Now, all of a sudden, you just spent all this time building this massive empire online around that real estate company, and it's no longer in existence. And it's like, well, now you're just kind of wasted it, right? But if it's built around you, that company could go down, and there's people, Gary could lose a company tomorrow and no one would know. You know what I mean? Then the flip side of that is you can also take your influence and your leverage. And this is kind of what I've done. And you can use that credibility to pour people into specific areas. So if you own 3 or 4 different companies, you have your main brand. People follow that. They trust that. They're engaged with that. You take those people and you're like, hey, I have this over here. 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 Right. And you're kind of taking that core audience who already is connected to you as a human, and you're just directing them to wherever, you know, whatever makes sense for what they're doing. People hit you up and they're interested in real estate. You're like, oh, I own a real estate company. And you're kind of using that to self-promote as well, right? And I guess that would kind of be like the third thing is if you're building your own brand and your own personal brand, your own personal identity, then what happens is you can kind of mix in other things, right? You can do in a podcast or a video or a post or a caption, whatever, around your real estate company. And now you're kind of dropping these little nuggets. This is what Gary does as well. A lot of people know that he's in the wine business. He's in the digital marketing, digital agency business. You may not know the in-depth details of it because you're just not really that interested in it. But I know that he does those things because he promotes it, right? But when people talk about Gary, it's him as an entrepreneur. And then he's able to filter that and put those people where he wants, if that makes sense. So it's just kind of being able to direct people around. So you just have more options and there's more opportunity if you're building a personal brand versus a brand just solely for your company.
Yeah, love it, dude. So then when it comes to starting to build your personal brand, let's just say it's a whether it's a new entrepreneur or an entrepreneur that's been in business, a real estate agent, let's just say that's been in business for a while, but they don't have they've never put any focus on building the personal brand.
Sure.
Yeah, right. And it becomes an overwhelming space because you see all these different social media platforms and, you know, and I think for a lot of people, it just becomes too overwhelming and they just
definitely
just end up leading
doing
to
nothing.
action, right? And doing nothing with it. What advice do you give on like where to start? Like even little things like, hey man, with all these different social media platforms, how do I know if I should be on? I get questions quite frequently now of like, dude, is Twitter still relevant? Should I even waste my time on Twitter? You know, right? Like how would you identify the platforms that you're going to go on and like, where do you start with it?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, that's a really good question because I think there's a few different angles to look at it. I really love actually what Gary talks about where he there's a video of someone asking him like about Snapchat. They're like, Gary, should I still be on Snapchat? You know, Instagram stories took over, blah, blah, blah. And his whole response is like, listen, are there still people on Snapchat? Yes. Do you still have a following there? Yes. Then why would you abandon it? It's free traffic, right? And I think that analogy applies, you know, there's an kind of overarching aspect to it where it's like, listen, every social media has something to it. And if there's a following there, then you can do something with that. Now, with that said, I also am a big firm believer that, you know, if you don't have the resources, you're not a giant entrepreneur with endless content, it is going to be a lot harder for you to go build 6 different platforms like Gary does, right? He has a full-blown media team for every single one of those things. So what my suggestion is, especially for someone just starting out, and I even kind of do this too, I dabble in other platforms, but my main one is Instagram. That is where my main focus is. And the reason why is just simply because you're dealing with, Facebook owns Instagram. So you're dealing with the single largest company within the entire arena. So you're betting on the largest one in the space. You know, I used to be on Vine back in the day. I don't even know if you remember that. Some people know it, some people don't. Little video platform. It got pretty big, but guess what? Vine doesn't exist today, right? And that's just the reality of a lot of social media is, you know, out there is that they're not going to exist or they're going to get bought out, you know, by the big guys. And so you're placing a solid bet in terms of the future of your brand if you go with one of the bigger ones. Now, with that said, if you just look at Instagram in general, it's pretty clear that it is the face of social media right now. You know, it's pretty clear that that's where the big guys in any industry are putting their time and energy. And the reason why is because it's by far the most attractive social media in the world in terms of like my generation and down, which at the end of the day is the upcoming marketplace. And so it's just clear. And even the numbers, you know, the engagement rate on it is like, I think it's like 58 times higher than Twitter and like 120 times higher than Facebook or something crazy like that. And so the numbers, you know, just make sense. And then just the mass culture shift makes sense. You can clearly tell, like I said, you know, that's where all the big people are at. That's what people are putting their time and energy into. So my recommendation is obviously being, you know, in the Instagram space, I would recommend starting with that. Build that up. Once you get a firm grasp on that, and once you kind of get some traction with that, go out and explore other ones. It's, you know, for Instagram, you can auto post to other platforms, you know, so when I do something on Instagram, it automatically is building a following on Facebook. I'm building a following on Twitter. I'm building a following on Pinterest. I don't use 2 of those platforms, but I'm building a following there simply because I have it set up where things are just automatically going out. Content is being sent out. So there's little things you can do like that. There's apps for that, stuff like that. But then you can even take it to the next level where if you really are serious about it, or you do have the funds to starting out like a big entrepreneur, you can hire people, you can bring in a team. And it's literally like you have a social media team that's taking your content and they're just repurposing it and they're putting it on all these different platforms, and you have people that are engaging on those different platforms on your behalf. So there's obviously different levels. It kind of depends on where you're at, you know, your funds, your resources, how much time and energy you want to put into it. But at the end of the day, I recommend starting with one. I prefer Instagram for the reasons I already said earlier, and then kind of expand out into the other platforms as you kind of go. But I wouldn't get too caught up in, you know, trying to be the biggest person ever on every single one of the platforms. I would rather, you know, zero in and focus on one or two of them and just build a massive brand on those two things. Because at the end of the day, once you get a big brand going, it's very easy to go scale, you know, other things around it, if that makes sense.
Yep, 100%, dude. So then with Instagram, speaking of Instagram specifically, because I think a lot of our podcast listeners, myself included, have leveraged Facebook very heavily over the years, just because of the age of the eyeballs that are on, you know, right? But as you mentioned, now millennials are very heavily hitting the real estate market. They're becoming, you know, they're stepping into that, right? So it's there now, and it's only going to continue to grow, where that's where the majority of, at least for real estate agents, ideal clients are going to be.
Sure.
So getting started there, right? Because you got, all right, not only do you got to post, it matters on what you got to post. And then there's different things that you can do. So let's just kind of hit these one by one, you know, and just as simplified as we can, you know, right? Just for people that are getting started. Like for me, dude, you know, I don't know, I think I might have like 4,000 or 5,000 followers on Instagram, right? But dude, I don't know a damn thing about it. Like it's just, you know, where I've got, you know, 40 or 50,000 on Facebook, right? And to put that energy into Facebook. So what are some just important rules of thumb when it comes to what you post, where you post, and the type of content that you're posting to really start building your following?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously content is king, you know, on any platform, but it's definitely king on Instagram, being that it's a visual platform. And so, I mean, in terms of the type of content, you know, that's obviously going to vary depending on what type of space you're in. But like if you're doing a real estate and you're building a personal brand in real estate, you know, one of the strategies I kind of coach on a lot of times is, if you look at your overall feed, there's 3 columns that go down. And to make it super easy, the goal of your content is 2 things. Number 1, you want it to be valuable, right? You want people to see it and actually get value from it. And then number 2 is you want it to be clear, meaning you want your message to be clear. You want people to come to your account and be like, this guy's you know, X, Y, and Z, right? This girl is whatever, right? She does this, or she's this person. So you want your messaging to be very clear to people, because it's just such a fast-paced society, quick attention spans. We come over, people come check out your account. If it doesn't look good and they don't understand and they're not getting any value, they're gone, right? And so that's kind of the first like major rule of thumb. But the second piece is to do that. One of the best ways that I always coach on is, if you look at Instagram, you have those 3 columns. And if you literally just take, and you'll see people do this, if you take those 3 columns and you kind of divvy them up into different different types of content, different themes of content, it'll help you so much. So here's what I mean. Let's say your first column, every single post in that column is like motivational or inspirational quotes. Okay. Everyone in there. Then the next column is all around your travel, right? Let's say you're a big entrepreneur, you're traveling a lot. And so the middle column is all like it's like videos and posts of you traveling, and, you know, and just cool pictures of you at really cool spots. You're tagging the location, right? And you're showing your lifestyle. So lifestyle is even a better word. It's more of like the lifestyle that you live. And then the third column is maybe more like family, friends, like your hobbies. Like it's more you, it's more just like what you do day to day. And it's just value driven, like you waking up and showing a, you know, cool picture of you reading some book, something like along those lines, right? That's totally just an example. Or maybe if a real estate, the third column is all like real estate related stuff. It's related specifically to your business. So my point is if you look at each column as a different theme, what that allows you to do is it gives you in your mind a little bit of structure. So now you're like, okay, you go on your Instagram and you're like, oh, I need to post a quote today, or, oh, I need to put up a video or a picture of, you know, some lifestyle related, you know, thing, or real estate related, you know, category. So you know what to post. It's not just scrambled. And then what it also does is it paints a very clear picture that looks really good, visually speaking, to your potential followers. People come over and they see that and they're like, this guy's traveling the world. He's clearly making a lot of money. He's into the real estate space. I'm going to follow him, right? I'm going to follow her. And so it paints a picture and it looks good. So that when it comes to content, that's really the, you know, and again, we could obviously dive much deeper into that, but that overall, that's kind of like the 2 big things that I like really try to push people to do and look at is, again, you want it to be clear and you want it to have like a theme to it. And then you also want it to, have the structured, I don't know if you want to call it like, categories or themes, whatever you pick the word. But having that visual effect as well, all kind of plays a role. So that's what I would say when it comes to content, man. And then, other than that, it's having it be related is like, I guess, just like a no-brainer, but a lot of times people don't do that. It's like, if you're building a brand around a specific category, your content needs to reflect that. You can't be building a brand around, let's say you're a big time, real estate entrepreneur, and it's like, and you're posting just a bunch of photos of like your blurry dog, you know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't work. Like, people don't relate to that, and it doesn't give any sort of value. And then in the captions too, that's really where a lot of the value comes from, is like you're actually putting thoughtful captions together that's portraying your thoughts, and you're showing people your authenticity, and you're giving them, tips and tricks, and you're talking about your story and things like that. So yeah, I could go on for a long time, but hopefully that helps.
Yep, love it, dude. So then I heard somebody frame it one time, which I loved how he worded it, for like a way of thinking of what social media is. He's like, look, dude, at the end of the day, it's reality TV, right? It's replaced reality TV. The difference is you're the star, right? Yeah. So you got to be very intentional, just like you said, of what do you want? How do you want the world to see you? Right? Like when they think of Joshua Smith or whatever, like, how do you want them to see you?
Yep.
Right?
I love that.
Then from there, dude, let's kind of break, because you talk about, with the image, the captions. Before I get into that though, it's one of these things where people will hear, and I just read Grant Cardone's Be Obsessed or Be Average for, I don't know, I've read it 3 or 4 times now, but just got done reading it again. It's just one of those books that, like, every time I'm feeling demotivated, I read that book and it refires me up.
Yeah.
But he talks about it in there. He's like, look, dude, like, some people will hear that he's, with his posting, that he might post 36 times a day, that being way overkill or whatever it is. But he's like, dude, it's throwing a pebble in the ocean, right? With the amount of eyeballs that are on there, and the lack of organic reach, like, you have to, posting maybe 3 posts a week isn't going to cut it, right? So when it comes to frequency, right, like, what is enough to at least get started and get momentum built up? And then on the opposite of that, is there a point, speaking to Instagram specifically, where it can be too much?
Yeah, really good question. So I get asked this a lot, probably like one of the top questions I get. And my answer to it is, although frequency is important, and I'll touch on that and I'll answer your question, really the biggest thing to understand is it's more about consistency than it is frequency. So if you're posting 10 times a day, just do that every day, right? What you don't want is 5 times here, and then it's a week later, and then it's one time here, and then and then it's 2 times the next day, 5 times the next day, 10 times the next day, and then you don't post for a week. You don't want that. You want consistency for a variety of reasons. One of them being that it allows your audiences to really, kind of get into their head. Like, they know that when they go on their page, they're getting used to seeing your post, they're engaging with it, they're used to it, as well as just the way the algorithm works on Instagram. Without getting technical, it just helps you, right? They're going to boost up your posts. You're going to have a better overall reach long-term if you're consistent every day. So it's better to be consistent. Now, going backwards with the frequency side of things, what I recommend people do is post every day or every other day. If you're building a personal brand. Now, this is where it kind of depends again on the type of accounts you're building. If you have some viral meme page, you could post 10 times a day, right? It's super easy. If you have a motivational quote page, like I have a massive quote page that I build, and I post usually 3 to 4 times a day. But that's a little bit different. With my personal brand, I'm posting once like every other day is kind of my theme, and I just stay consistent with that. And so that's one piece to it. The other thing you got to understand is, like with a Grant Cardone as an example, he's right in the sense that, the market, he's just, barely touching the market overall. But what you have to understand is that he's also posting to an audience size, an organic size of, whatever he's at, 2 million followers, right? So if you have 5 followers and you're posting 36 times a day, that's not going to work. I guarantee you're not going to find success with that. Why? Because people are just seeing your post constantly in their feed. That's all they're seeing. They don't know who you are. There's not a lot of value there. You're not a Grant Cardone yet, right? And so when he posts that much, he's reaching a massive, massive audience. And so it kind of gets spread out. But like with somebody who doesn't have a big following and they do that, they're just saturating their own market. And so it just doesn't work. So instead of that, what I recommend is stay consistent, post 1 to 2 times a day, depending on the market you're in. 1 every other day is fine as well. But just stay consistent with it. And as you grow, as you get bigger, absolutely, you can kind of add in a little bit more if you want to. But again, the key is just staying consistent with it.
So it sounds like, dude, you've got a different page for the motivation, different page for your personal brand. What is the reasoning behind that versus just having everything under your one page on your personal brand and really trying to just build that up as big as you possibly can?
Yeah. So the personal brand, it's funny. So it's been a journey, man. Over the last few years, I've actually kind of changed up my approach. When I first started on Instagram, I literally just posted just kind of like luxury style images. And then I transitioned into more custom, images with like cool backgrounds and like motivational quotes. And then I transitioned into like, hey, I'm actually going to, build my personal brand. When I first started on Instagram for the first couple of years, I was not building a personal brand. It was more of a generic page. I recently, just in the last year, started actually going really hard on my personal brand. So I transitioned my page into more of a personal brand because I realized over the last year that was the move. I even kind of became aware of it after kind of seeing Gary and some of these bigger guys. I was like, man, having a personal brand is extremely valuable, especially for the next 5-10 years. And so that's what I did is I transitioned it. And so then what I did from there was my other account is purely just the motivational quote page. And it hits a different audience. It's not meant to be, my personality, my personal brand. It's meant more to hit the market of just a mass generic account that like anybody can follow, right? I have people that are massive and big time entrepreneurs. And then I have people that are just getting started. And then I have people that aren't even into entrepreneurship. They just like the motivational quotes, right? So it's more of a generic market. And there's just different ways of monetizing on that type of account versus like a personal brand. So they're just two different markets. But that was kind of why I went that route, was just because I'm just so used to that world anyways. And so I just kind of transitioned my personal page into a personal brand and then took this account and just ran with that.
So then, for you, because you have multiple businesses, does that make sense for you versus, let's just say it's just me and I'm just in real estate. I've got one play, right? Would you then recommend just the one page then and not doing multiple pages because I'm not looking to capitalize on revenue streams of other things?
Yeah. I mean, in that case, I definitely would, it's hard to get the thing I would say is your personal brand is most important, right? Like do that no matter what. In terms of the other brands, like building a brand around different companies, or even if it's just one company, that is, in my opinion, important to do, but it is more of like a personal preference based off of like the amount of resources and time and energy and money you have to put into it. Because there's no point in starting an Instagram account if you're not really going to try to go and build it, right? But if you're going to go and try to build it, it takes time. Like you got to actually put in the work, or have someone else do it, which then costs money. And so it's kind of that like fine line where it really is like a case by case. Like ultimately, yeah, like having a massive brand around you and everything you're doing is in all the different segments of your life. That's like the ultimate goal. But the reality is most people don't have the time, the resources, or the money to go and do that.
Yeah. So then when it comes to the image and not counting, not speaking to stories yet, but like the image and video, if you will, because you're limited with the length of time in the video, what are some best practices there, right? That will get the most attention and most traction.
So when it comes to, starting with just imagery, the biggest thing, and again, this is like a no-brainer, but you'd be surprised how many people don't do this. In fact, the mass majority of people don't do this. It has to look good. Like it actually has to look good, and I'm really big on, being authentic. We'll talk about this in the stories if we go there too, but authenticity and being real and being raw. I'm huge on that because I believe that that's really what's shifting. At first it was all fake and now it's shifting into the ones who are real, like the Gary Vaynerchuk's, right? He just is who he is. Grant Cardone are a great example. And those guys are crushing it for that reason. So when it comes to that, with that being said, when it comes to your content, that doesn't mean that you just, you took a real-time photo of you and it's dark and you can barely see you and you're like, well, it's just real, it's just me, and you post it. It doesn't work. Like if you want to play the game of Instagram, you do need to play the game of Instagram right, meaning you need to edit that photo. You need to make it look good, brighten it up a little bit. I'm not saying you need to go Photoshop and change how you look. What I'm saying is brighten up the background, spice up a little bit of, the clothes you're wearing, change up the colors a little bit. Instagram has tons of filters that you can use. And a lot of these really all they do, and what I'm big on, is it just enhances the quality of the image because it's all about the instant eye-catching ability, right? You want someone to come over and because of the vibrancy and the quality and the clarity of the photo, they see it and they stick to it. And they're like, wow, that's a cool photo, right? So that's number one, is you want it to look good. Number two, anytime you can get an image with you and like a face. So if you go to my account, like I have images, I have photos on there where, you know, I'm with like a Tony Robbins, for example, and anyone who knows him immediately is going to connect with that. And what it does is it also builds credibility for me, because they're like, wow, this guy was just with Tony. Like, that's crazy. Right. So anytime you can post anything with celebrities, and now obviously I know that this isn't just like a go and do this. You don't always have the ability to, but I'm just kind of throwing it out there. If you're ever around famous people or big time, you know, names inside of your specific industry, those are always going to be gold. Like, you're going to get a ton of engagement with that. You're going to get a ton of people, you know, hitting you up, asking you what you do. Right. I mean, it's amazing, because again, it kind of builds the credibility on your end of things. So that's another little thing there as well. In terms of like videos and stuff, videos are really awesome, man. You know, when it comes to the videos on Instagram right now, their Instagram is really pushing videos, meaning the algorithm favors videos over images. So you have a much better chance of going viral and reaching more people with videos, especially IGTV videos, because that's like what they're trying to push right now, because it's kind of like their newest thing. And just a little side note, anytime Instagram launches something new, if you go really hard at that, I guarantee you're gonna see success, because they're always gonna reward you by using whatever the newest feature is, because they want to get it out there, right? So if you use it, they're gonna reward you. But yeah, when it comes to videos, you know, same kind of game, man. Except for the biggest thing I would say with the video is the number one key with it is it's got to be, you know, the cover photo is really big. You got to, you know, the whole like clickbait thing, just getting people to click on it to watch it in the first place. And then the biggest thing is the value, like to keep people there, entertained, whatever it is that they're doing. It's got to be value driven in some fashion, whether that's, you know, it's just a hilarious video, like you're reposting like a viral video that you already know works, or it's like a video of you doing like your own podcast, your own show, whatever, but you're just dropping bombs, you're giving value, and your people are engaged. So that's the overall kind of thing, what I would say. And the last thing I'll give you too for content, anytime you can do any sort of call to actions, it's going to help boost your overall interaction as well. So what I mean by that is you see people say, you know, they'll type a quote and then they'll be like, you know, type yes below if you agree with this. That's a basic call to action, and it gets people to take an action. And the more actions taken, comments, likes, you know, views, those are going to boost up your post. And so anytime you can, you know, have someone tag a friend or type something or engage with your post, it's just going to help boost your overall, you know, your overall profile on Instagram.
Are there any things when it comes to the size of the image or how you shoot the video? Like on Facebook, for example, a square image versus something vertical, or a vertical video, right? Even though we're always told, make sure, you know, do the horizontal like the LED TV style.
Yeah.
But you end up getting on a vertical video, even though you've got the black bars on the side from your mobile phone, like 33% more higher engagement and results, because it takes up like 50% more space in the feed, you know, right? Are there any size requirements that are like, hey, like this will get you more traction?
So, I mean, I don't know the exact sizes. Instagram's actually done a really good job at being able to kind of resize things. At the beginning, it used to be really hard, but then they've made a lot of, you know, updates to the app where, you know, you can take a photo that doesn't necessarily fully fit and you can like expand it and it'll show the whole thing. So like images, it's not, you know, it's not too much of an issue there. With videos, it definitely is more of an issue because you obviously want it to fit the little square, you know, box. And then also, I mean, it just kind of depends on what you're posting. Because if you're posting like an IGTV video, you know, with those, they're built for like the long form, you know, type format. But if you're posting just a video specifically just on your feed, it's a little bit different. It's got to be more, you know, in the dimensions. Again, I don't know the numbers of it, of the dimensions exactly off the top of my head. But the biggest thing I would say is you want to just make sure, you know, test everything before you post it. Like put it up on there, see how it looks first. And when it comes to specifically with videos, if you're having like a headline or a caption or a cover photo, that's what you want to make sure fits on your Instagram feed, because that's what people are going to see before they click the video. And, you know, and again, if it's like an IGTV video, well, then they're watching it on that platform. And so it's going to be a little bit different. But, you know, yeah, I mean, the biggest thing I could tell you is just to, you know, do it a few times, test it, make sure it looks good. And, you know, once you kind of, you get it up and you know exactly how to like size it, you'll know how to do it forever.
Now, you mentioned earlier the importance of captions, you know, right?
Yeah.
Can you just give some tips on captions, like just in general, what they are, how to utilize them, but then how to have the most success with them and how they lead to more engagement?
Yeah. So captions are really important because, you know, as the image or video is the visual side of things, the captions is where, you know, people can now read and they can connect with you kind of in a different way. And so, yeah, when it comes to captions, there's kind of like 3 different styles. You have like a short, medium, and long. Basically a short one would just be, so like a lot of my motivational quotes. It's literally just, hey, tag a friend that agrees with this, right? Something like that. Like it's super basic, or, double tap if you agree, or, I just, type a little quote, something like that. Then you have like your medium ones, which is just, again, it's a little bit longer. You're kind of dropping a little bit of value in there. My favorite ones are like, especially for a personal brand, are the long form ones, because these take the most time and energy, but they yield the most results. And it's where you actually spend some time. And what I like to do is I'll pick like a theme of the caption, and then I'll build out the caption based off of that theme. So I just posted one a little bit ago about like the word net worth and what that means, and how your network is your net worth. And I started talking about that subject, right? And so having like, I like to personally have kind of a theme, but overall, like the strategy with it is you just want your captions to be relevant to your photos. And you want them to be value driven. So they're relevant to your photos, number one. They're value driven, meaning you're actually giving tips and tricks, and you're talking about, things from your personal experience on that subject, number 2. And then number 3 is I always like to have some sort of call to action in there. Like I mentioned earlier, where you end it with tag a friend that you think would relate to this, or tag someone that tag someone in your team, or, type yes if you agree, or whatever. There's so many little things you can do. But at doing that, it gets people to engage a lot more. And so yeah, man, that's what I would say with captions. At the end of the day, it's like, just put some thought into it. Like really try to type something out that you truly do think is going to provide value, to people that are reading it.
Yeah. Love it, dude. So then, everything that we've really talked about is quality posting to build up that engagement, right? But then from there, and you talked about, hey, tag a friend, which they tag a friend, maybe you're getting some more followers, but ultimately, like, we want to build more and more eyeballs on us, right? So what are some things to do, or what would be your top tips to build up, like, hey, they said earlier, I don't know what the exact count is. It's been probably a year since I've logged into my Instagram account, which is bad, but, I've got, 4,000 or 5,000, let's just say, but I want to be 20,000 by the end of this year, right? Like, what can I do to go out there and get organic, I guess, followers that are on there, whether that's utilizing hashtags or call to actions? Like, how do you actually grow that count?
The best answer is hire someone.
Yeah.
No, and I'll give you some tricks, but the reason why I actually do really say that is because what a lot of people fail to realize is that, nowadays on Instagram, the reality is it is very difficult to grow organically. And when I say organically, I don't do anything that's not real followers, but what I mean by organically is you just doing it by posting and not having any sort of strategy to actually grow your account. And you're just kind of posting using hashtags and hoping that it grows. That actually used to work, but nowadays it really doesn't. Like the algorithm, which simply just means exposure to your page, how many eyeballs are seeing your account. The algorithm is very, very, very difficult in 2019 than it was back in 2010. And it's simply just, simply due to supply and demand. You have, over 1 billion users logging into Instagram every single month. If everybody just shot up to 1 million followers, well, it wouldn't be valuable anymore. And so the Instagram is forced to constantly add in new updates to make it more restricted and harder to really rank up in the platform. And so that's why I really do, suggest people, and I honestly, whether it's me or someone else, I don't care, but I really would, if you are serious about Instagram, like I am telling you, invest a little bit of money and get some help, because it is difficult to grow. Now, with that being said, what you can do to kind of help, I guess like growth hack on Instagram, a few things. Number one, hashtags. I mentioned that. They're not going to take your account from 0 to 1 million, but what they do is they create organic exposure on a daily basis. And the best strategy you can possibly use is you get 30 hashtags on Instagram to use. Just simply go into the hashtag section on Instagram and just start researching. Just simply find hashtags that are related to your niche and are hashtags where you think people that you're looking for that you would want to follow you are kind of hanging out. And so the best strategy I can give you with hashtags is don't use all just super generic ones that have billions of people using them, because you're never going to rank up in those. Use more defined ones, like instead of using real estate, use real estate investor and real estate investing, right? It's a little bit more defined, a little bit more targeted, and there's a little bit less people, in that space. And so it's a little bit easier to gain traction. So 30 hashtags, go do a little hashtag research, find some, ones that are related to your market and utilize those. I recommend posting them on every single post that you do. So now you have your hashtags. The next thing I would say, and this won't work for everybody, But if you do watch, a lot of these bigger entrepreneurs, a lot of times what they do is a way to kind of growth hack on Instagram is you repost viral content. So you're finding videos and images that are just kind of more generic, and they're, maybe if you're an entrepreneur listening to this, which I'm sure most are, you're posting an image or a video that is not branded to anybody specifically, or maybe it is, but for the most part, it's not branded to anyone specifically, but it has to do with just the overall, topic of entrepreneurship. Like, maybe the famous like iceberg photo, right? We've all seen that. You kind of have it with the tree I see in the background there, where it's like the success at the top, but then it's like what everybody doesn't see, right? And it shows all the little things. That photo has floated around Instagram for the last, 6 years since I've been on the platform. And so you see a photo, you see a video that's more generic, and you see it on like that Explorer page, and you see it, someone else posted it and it got millions and millions of hits. Post that. If it fits your branding and you're willing to do that, post something like that, because it's almost guaranteed to reach more people than anything else you're going to post, because it's already proven itself on the platform, right? So the algorithm is going to favor that post over anything else. So utilizing viral content is another strategy to grow. Another one you can do is, and this one is not consistent, it's more of a lottery type thing, but it does work if you do it long enough. And that is tagging bigger accounts in your market and like celebrities. I mean, I've had Tyrese Gibson and Kevin Hart both repost my photos. And I mean, I got thousands and thousands and thousands of followers in the matter of 24 hours from when that happened, And so, but it's a lottery, right? You tag them in it, and you could do it 1,000 times and nothing happens, right? But then there's that one time where they see something and they do it. So tagging bigger accounts in your space, tagging, bigger generic accounts, and tagging celebrities and things like that. That's another strategy. It's an old school strategy, but it can definitely work. And then, other than that, man, the only other thing that I can really give your people is being active on the platform. Instagram favors people that are actually active. So like you just said, like I haven't been on the platform in a year. Well, your account is going to be way down in the algorithm. When you go and start actively going on it, it's going to take you a little bit more time to really start reaching your full potential than it is me, because I'm active every single day, right? So the algorithm on Instagram, again, just simply means how much exposure are you getting. That is going to favor people who are on the platform and they're answering DMs, they're sending DMs, they're commenting, they're responding to comments, they're posting, they're liking, right? They're doing actions, they're following people. When you take actions, it's picked up by the algorithm. And the more that you do, the more favor you're going to get. And so that'll kind of help you, go out there as well. And then I guess the last thing I'll leave you with, and I think this one's, kind of a given as well, but obviously if you are doing anything else outside of Instagram, like you have a big Facebook or you have a big podcast or, you have a website or whatever, start linking all of that to your Instagram account, right? Promote your Instagram on your podcast, promote your Instagram on your Facebook, promote it on your website. And anytime you go to like networking events or just belly to belly events where you're meeting people, get connected on Instagram. And the more that you kind of do that, obviously it's just more free, exposure, and it'll help you grow. So those are some of the more organic ways that you can go out there and grow yourself. I recommend doing all that stuff regardless if you hire someone or not. But yeah, man, hopefully that helps.
Yep. No, it's awesome stuff, dude. So then look, I could go out there and build up, let's just say 100,000 followers, whatever. I'm getting a lot of engagement, but at the end of the day, I'm an entrepreneur, man. I need to drive them to doing business with me.
Sure.
And I don't know if things have changed, but it's like, look, in the past when I posted links, they're not clickable links like they would be on other platforms, and, different things. Like, how do you go from this Instagram following and engagement to client? Like, what's some ways there to drive them to your website or drive them to a webinar or drive them to somehow actually getting on the phone with you?
Right. Yeah. Awesome question. And this is the number one question on it. Actually, no, the number one question I get is how to grow an Instagram account. The second one is how do I monetize it? And what I can tell you is I know people personally. I have a massive network, about 60 million in my network of just people that I connect with and work with. And I would say 85% of these guys don't make money on Instagram, and all of them have 250,000 to 1 million followers plus. And so you got to understand, it is different. Like, people don't realize, like this was one of the biggest misconceptions that I fell into. When I first started, I spent so much time and money and energy into building a brand. And I literally thought if I could just get to 100,000 followers, I'd be a millionaire. Like I literally thought that with no plan, no strategy, just let me just get the followers and I can be, I'll be rich. And it's like, obviously that's not the case. So first and foremost, you have to have an opportunity, right? I mean, I think it's a given, but it's like, again, these sometimes common sense isn't so common. You got to have a strategy. You got to have a webinar. That's a perfect example. You got to have a webinar to drive people to. You have to have a converting website or a funnel, or an opportunity like a network marketing business or a real estate investing business. You have to have something that you can obviously get someone to. That's number one. The second thing is when it comes to utilizing your page to actually drive traffic, this is another form of like call to action. And so there's call to actions to build engagement, which we talked about earlier. And then there's call to actions to actually drive people to become a lead or get on the phone. And the difference is it's how you're going about your posting and your bio as well. So in your bio, you have the ability to put a link in there. And what I recommend you do is you have your link in there, whether that's to your website or it's to a webinar or a funnel, something like that. And you have a call to action right above it where it literally just says, if you're interested in X, Y, and Z, click the link below, right? Or if you want to work with me or you want this, you want that, whatever the value is that you're giving your people, drive them to that link. And then in your posts, you can do the same thing. You can make a post all about how you crushed it in real estate this last year. And then at the bottom of it, you're like, click the link in my bio to schedule a call with my team, right? You're doing it's another jab. It's another call to action. In your stories, if you have a swipe up feature, that's obvious. You can send people to whatever link you want. But if you don't, same game. You're posting a story. You're talking about whatever it is that you're trying to sell. You're talking about the benefits of it, and you're driving people to click a link in your bio. So that's one of the ways you can do it. You can make a post, you can make a video, you can make a story, right? You add in call to actions and you're driving people to a central point on Instagram. The goal is to get people off of Instagram. Instagram is a gateway. It's to get them off of Instagram and into your funnel, on the phone, whatever it is that you're doing. Okay. So that's another strategy. A third one, and this actually is the number one strategy that I've used to make money on Instagram. And it's simply reaching out and networking. So what I mean is what I did at the beginning stages was I would go on my account. I would first identify the perfect client. I would figure out who am I looking for. At the time it was, I'm looking for a 6 or 7 figure earner that's already on Instagram and clearly is trying to grow their account and they need help. So I built a list of those people. I did some research, found a bunch of accounts that I want to, connect with. I crafted a message that basically just quickly introduced myself, quickly introduced my opportunity, talked about all the benefits, and then did a call to action that was like, if you're interested, let me know. I would love to schedule a 15-minute call with you. And then I copied and pasted that message, and I literally went and I just mass direct messaged people. And the key with it is when I would hit up somebody, I would message you. I would then go to your most recent photo, and I would literally be like, hey, go to your DM. I just sent you a message. Go check it out. And then I would also email you if you have that in the context. So I would hit you from 3 different fronts: your DM, your content, or your picture or video, and then in the comment section, and then also your email. And so what I did is I just literally every day I made it part of my routine, and I still do this all the time. And I would just go out and I would reach out to people. I would just naturally reach out to people. And I think this is one of the things that a lot of people don't realize it's so easy to do. I mean, you have high-level executives, top CEOs, big-time influencers in every single industry that are a one message away on Instagram. I mean, back in the day, it's like you called a big-time real estate office, you had to talk to the assistant, they would schedule a time, right? And then maybe you could talk to the head honcho. But now it's like, if they're on Instagram, chances are that they actually manage their own Instagram. And chances are they're also not very big on Instagram. And so if you happen to have more followers than them, they're more than likely to respond to it. So DMing people is another really big one that I'd recommend. And the last thing I'll say too, man, is what I see so many people try to do is they don't have any sort of influence. They have barely any followers. They don't really have a brand. They don't have any sort of credibility. And every other post is go buy my product, go buy my product, go buy my product, right? And, you mentioned Gary. I love his book. It's the jab, 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 right hook. And the whole analogy means value, 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 boom, right hook. If you're interested, here's what I have. And when you do that, what I really recommend you do is create something that kind of fits on Instagram. What I mean by that is if you're in real estate and your goal is to, like you're buying houses and you're flipping houses and, you're doing real estate deals. Well, those are high ticket deals, right? Those take a little bit of time. There's a lot more to it than just send me money on PayPal. Like there's a little bit more invested into it. So I wouldn't recommend you're just trying to, sell houses on your Instagram account. What I would recommend you do is you create some sort of funnel system where they get something for free. and they opt into it and they get on your email list, and then they get added into your Facebook group, and you're connecting with them and you're kind of bringing them up this value ladder where the ultimate goal is get on the phone with me and let's do some real estate deals, right? So now you've kind of, built this connection with them and you've given them value. They've gotten free gifts from you or really low ticket items, ebooks and real books, things like that, or a little mini course, something like that. And then it's like, then you get them on the phone or you get them to an event or something along those lines. That's a little bit of a higher ticket and a bigger commitment. So start small and then build, get people off the platform and into your market, and then slowly start introducing them to, other opportunities.
Yeah. Well, awesome stuff, dude. So then with all the posting, you talked earlier about, hey, I can do this one posting, it shares on all these other platforms. Do you have any tools that you use that you absolutely love that you recommend others use? I don't know, like a Buffer or Hootsuite or like one of these other platforms that can just keep us organized for scheduling, intentional, but then also, spread it out over many different platforms.
Sure. Yeah. So I know there's a lot out there, mentioned a few of them, and feel free to try multiple different ones. If you're on Instagram and Facebook, those two sync together anyways. They just like Facebook gives you the ability to do that. And so if you set up your account as like a business account on Instagram, you can actually have an option where you can auto post all of your stories and all of your content to your Facebook page too, which is pretty cool. They kind of add that in as like a, little value add. Being again that Facebook owns Instagram. So with those two platforms, you can do it just from the platform itself. With all the other platforms out there, I use a program called Zapier. And basically what that allows you to do is you create a post and then it'll take that post and it'll post it, on all of the different platforms. But the really cool thing about Zapier that I really like is that it'll actually, you can set it up so that it'll fit the content for that platform. So it doesn't just post a link on Twitter. It actually posts your image and your caption on Twitter, as opposed to, like I said, just like a random link to go back to your Instagram. And so yeah, man, that's what I use. But there's honestly, if you just Google it, there are so many different things you can do. Yeah.
Yeah. Love it, dude. And then when it comes to, I know you've built a lot of your business through networking, right. Yeah. Which is a, opposite subject of what maybe we're talking about with all the social media stuff, other than you're able to leverage social media to networking events. But for like in real estate, man, like you want to get face-to-face, right? It's always the easiest way to close, get business, develop the right connections. How are you leveraging networking today, right? And what kind of tips would you give for our listener base to whether it's joining networking groups or creating their own networking groups or identifying the right rooms to be in? And dude, like I hear so many real estate agents that like, oh man, I went to this networking event. I didn't get any business out of it. It was a waste of time. Yeah. Right. They went there with the thought process of receiving, not giving.
Yeah.
Right. And developing those relationships. Can you just go through some best practices and strategies that you're using? Because networking, it should be such a huge on the list of priorities for real estate agents for gaining business.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, networking is probably the number one reason why, I'm at where I'm at today. And so, I mean, yeah, on platforms, obviously, like I already kind of mentioned, there's the DM feature. You're reaching out to people. I mean, on Instagram alone, most of the time people will have a contact, a button on there, and you can call them in some cases. You can shoot them an email. You can obviously shoot a DM to people. So I already kind of went through the strategy of networking on Instagram, and to, I guess, to add a little bit more to it real quick, instead of just sending a message, like kind of what I was doing was just more of like a direct hit. Like I wasn't even really networking. It was literally just like, here I am, here's what I got. If you're interested, let me know. And it was just mass numbers, and it works, it's just make up in numbers, right? But if you're trying to actually network and connect with people, then you would of course do that same strategy, but you would craft the message a little bit differently, where you would provide value and, you wouldn't try to sell anything. It's more about, how can I help you? I'd love to connect. I love your page. Let's figure out how we can collaborate, things like that, which I definitely do as well. So on the platform, that's utilizing the DM feature and identifying the accounts that you want to kind of chat with. That's what I would recommend. In other aspects of it, what you said is key, man. Events are huge. Going to events, meeting people face to face, and in that world, there's really like two types of events that I'd recommend you do. I'm a big event junkie. I've been to tons of events throughout my entire career, as I'm sure you have as well. I recommend you go to a industry specific event. So like you just said, like real estate meetups, things like that. And you can literally just do Google searches. I think the app Meetup has stuff like that as well. You can look on Facebook, there's groups, things like that. Real estate specific events. Then what I would recommend is you go to more broad generic events. So here's a great example and a quick little side story of networking. I went this last year in February. I went to Grant Cardone's event, the Growth Con 3. Highly recommend it. Love the event. There was so many amazing speakers, and it was just like a freaking, concert. I mean, it was crazy. Had a blast. 35,000 people. I mean, it was insane. But here's what's really cool about that is everybody there was involved in entrepreneurship, investing, business of some sort, but they were all in different categories, right? It was like you'd meet someone and they were in real estate. Then you meet someone else and they were in network marketing. You meet someone else and they're in digital marketing. You meet someone else and they're in, insurance, whatever. And so it was cool because you were able to kind of expand your market by connecting with people. But what was really cool, and you mentioned about, they didn't get anything from it. Well, this is like a cool little story. At that event, we weren't even at the actual main event. We were at a little side thing that it was like I almost didn't even go to it. And it was like a 200 person little meetup. And there was just some little small time influencers that kind of put it together. So me and the guys I was with, went to that. Well, we're at this little event and I'm standing there and there was a guy, not even a guy, he was a young kid, he's like 20 years old. And he was standing there in front of me and he was wearing a backwards hat and it basically said F the 9 to 5 on it. And I was like, that's hilarious. I thought it was funny. And so I literally and I actually learned this, back in the network marketing days, but what I naturally did is I saw that, I thought it was funny. I tapped his shoulder and I was like, yo, that's a cool hat, man. I really like that. And just from that one little thing right there, that one little just value add, like a little compliment that I gave him, we immediately hit it off and we started connecting. Well, fast forward, 6 months from that today, and him and I do all sorts of business. He got me into all sorts of different investments that are flourishing. I do a bunch of business with him with his Instagram. I made a bunch of money with him, and not only just him, but now he's introduced me to his entire market, which is a bunch of other young millennials that are crushing it, and they all want the same services. And so at the moment, nothing happened. But fast forward 6 months, and that one single compliment has turned into a massive piece of what I do today.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah. It's having, playing the long game, man. And so many people I get it. We're in this instant gratification society. Oh, yeah. Just a one click, you have it in 24 hours or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
There's nothing instant about business, man. So, no. Alex, dude, I mean, you've shared so much amazing info with us today, and I'm a big believer in not trying to figure this stuff out yourself, right? Like maybe you don't have the funds to hire an agency or a staff to do this, but you can still hack the process by following people that are doing it at a big level.
Absolutely.
Right? So if we have some listeners that maybe aren't in a position to invest into your agency, but want to follow you, right? Just to see what you're posting and learn from what you're doing and apply that to their business, as well as if we have, people like myself that are listening to this that are like, dude, I don't want to take on the learning curve. I just want to hire an agency because I want to be able to buy as much of my time back for myself to go do money-making activities inside my business, right? So then for those people, like, where's the best place to get in touch with you about your agency, see if you guys are a fit for each other, for them to potentially have you guys take over and help them grow all of the stuff that we talked about today?
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, in both circumstances, I would recommend just coming over to my account on Instagram. It's just @VisionWall. It's one word, VisionWall. And just connect with me on there. Shoot me a DM. If you're interested in our services, shoot me a direct message. If you're just want to follow me to learn and study, I have a lot of free stuff on there. I have free information, free ebooks, that talk about all sorts of different things. I have very low ticket stuff for like $20, $30. It's all on there. It's literally just, I have my website on there as well. So you can go there and kind of learn a little bit more about me and what I do. But yeah, man, I would say just come over and shoot me a message. I'm very active on there. I respond to just about everybody, that comes over and says something. And so come over, shoot me a DM, and, we'll get connected. And, if you're serious about working with me and my team, we can definitely hop on the phone and, I can break it all down and we'll go from there.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So one last question for you, dude. Knowing everything that you know now today, if you could rewind the clocks and have Alex today go back and have a conversation with younger Alex when you first started this entrepreneur journey and give yourself 2 pieces of advice that you feel would just fast forward your trajectory to success, what would those 2 pieces of advice look like today?
2 pieces of advice. I like that. So first I would say, get really good at learning how to network early on. And it sounds kind of funny, but like I noted this a little bit earlier, I meet so many especially young people today that, younger than me, I know I'm young, probably to some of your listeners, but to, the 17, 18-year-olds. And because of, and this is kind of the unfortunate side, but because of, social media, I think, and just the way the world is today, they just don't have any social skills. Like, they don't know how to hold a conversation. They don't know how to express their thoughts. They don't know how to influence people and build real rapport with people. And so for me, if I could go back and rewind, if I could get to the level that I'm at right now of how to just connect and have a real conversation and be comfortable with literally anybody, whether you're just starting out or it's Tony Robbins, like, it doesn't matter, having that level of confidence in myself, if I could rewind and go back, I would get really good at that. I would study that, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, like that whole subject. I would learn that at the beginning, because I look back and I realize how much that has played a role in my success, is, just being able to truly connect with other individuals. Because at the end of the day, business is all about relationships, and so that would be number one. And then number two, man, is depending on how far back we go, I would say, obviously, get onto social media as soon as freaking possible and really, learn it and run with it as hard as possible. And, and I guess a little like side note on that would be I wish I would have started with my own personal brand and kind of expressed my personality earlier on. That would have been cool if I would have spent the last 6 years just all in what I have today. If I could go back and rewind, I probably would have done that too. But yeah, that's probably what I'd say, man. Just networking and connecting with people, and then, going hard with social media.
Yeah. Powerful stuff, man. And those watching and listening, I know I end every podcast for this, but information without implementation is just truly the start of delusion. Information is no longer power. It's taking that information, taking massive action on it, that gives you the power for you to go out there and create the life that you want and deserve. And Alex shared so many amazing pieces of advice with you guys today. Take something that you learn and go out there and take immediate action on it. So again, you can go out there and create that life that you want and deserve. And we're going to have right below, we'll have all the links so you can connect with Alex on all his different social media platforms. Check out his website. All of that will be below wherever you're watching and listening. So make sure to check that out right now. And Alex, dude, I truly appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to be here, man. This has been a lot of fun and a lot of great content, dude. This has been awesome.
I love it. I love it. Thanks for having me. It's been a blast.
100%, my friend. All right, you guys, thank you for watching and listening. We will see you next time. Peace.